So roll up, ladies and gentlemen, for the great, amazing show, the greatest show on earth. We're going to be doing Ignite presentations. What is an Ignite, you may ask? Well, it's a death-defying feat for any presenter. It's 20 PowerPoint slides, auto-advancing every 15 seconds. You have no control over your slide deck. So basically, it starts off and running, so they have 5 minutes to present. So it's like a roller coaster. So we have 6 people who are presenting for you this afternoon. And, well, without further ado, I'd actually like to present our first, which is Mr. Rob England. Welcome.
Thank you.
And your time starts.
Today I want to talk to you about my next book that I'm brewing, and in order to do that I've got to introduce you to some basic concepts behind the book. And one of those is to protect and serve, which is the tension that IT faces between protecting our information assets and serving the changing needs of the business. The second concept is that a lot of our projects fail, and I think one of the reasons they fail is because we underfund them. We spend too much on the technology of the projects and not enough on the people and process aspects of our projects. If we funded them properly, then we would more apportion it equally, and in order to do that we can't reduce the technology spend, so we have to increase the people and process spend, which means that we would run out of money. So we'd have to do less projects, yay, which would free up the money for the projects we're working on. Doing less projects would be a good thing, because the next thing I want to talk about is the fact that we're drowning in projects. Too many organisations that I see have too many of the organisations that I see have too many projects going on, and the people are being inundated by the number of projects that they have to deal with. So there's no graphics coming up. Okay, so which is a good thing, because there's a human rate of change. We can only change so fast. And if you look at any of the exponential curves that people quote, the reality in the real world, and the physics says that those curves all level off. There's always a constraining factor. And I think IT is reaching one of those constraining factors, which is that, you know, we are trying to change IT faster than it can possibly change in too many organisations. We're flogging the horse as fast as it'll go, and it simply can't go any faster than it is. IT needs to speak up and point out the risks and the dangers to the organisation. How do we do that? We do that through governance of IT, and through getting our governors to understand their responsibilities and accountabilities to IT and make informed decisions. They do informed decision making through service portfolio. Service portfolio allows the governors to understand the demand side of service management and the retirement cycle. I think IT is overheating at the moment. I think we're being driven by a thinking that comes a lot out of America. It's driven by entrepreneurship, it's driven by quarterly results, it's driven by a fixation on competitiveness and speed of change. I think we need more slow IT. This is a provocative term, okay? I actually mean slower IT. I mean that we need to slow down the demands that are being made on IT through the portfolio by the governors and executives of organisations. The quid pro quo for the organisation if we slow IT down is that we will be able to do faster IT on the delivery side. If we slow down the demands on IT, we can deliver faster. How can we deliver faster? Through a whole bunch of things. Everything from the good old-fashioned basic optimisation and CSI. If we can get a little bit of headspace by reducing the demand side, slow IT, we can have the time for professionals to spend the 5 to 10% of their day that they should be spending on improving what they do. We can do it through standard change, good old-fashioned standard change, having the headspace to standardise more of our change so that we can accelerate change through the organisation. We can do it through lean and Kaizen, right? Lots of talk about this stuff, becoming more efficient in our processes, squeezing out the waste. You need the headspace, you need the resource to be able to implement such methodologies to gain the benefits from them. Slow IT takes the pressure off to allow us to do that. The same with outsourcing. You can only structure your organisation in such a way as to make it outsourceable. You can only modularise it by having the time and the resource to prepare the organisation to be in a state to be outsourceable. Likewise, retire and replace at the end of the service portfolio life cycle. It takes investment, it takes effort to shut down and replace, or shut down or re-engineer and replace a service with a newer, better infrastructure. Agile is all the buzz, but in order to be agile, in order to put agile methodologies in place in a legacy organisation, once again, you need that headspace, you need that time to be able to do it. And of course, the real buzz at the moment, which I'm going to talk about at the end of today a little bit as well, DevOps. DevOps requires major re-engineering of your infrastructure if you're going to be able to do that kind of thing. So we need the slow IT to take the pressure off to enable to do it. So the next book is going to be about meeting in the middle. It's going to be about how we need slow IT in terms of the organisation's demand on IT in order that we can produce fast IT, we can deliver faster on the demands that are actually made of us. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Rob. Your time starts.
Leading in really tough times. Leading in really tough times. How do you know you're leading in a tough time? Because there's some smart ass leading you. They've always got their hand out to pull you up, and that's when you realise that you have failed as a leader. Now that's a really tough time, isn't it? Especially if you're supposed to be the leader that is leading the way. The problem is, I think, we should stop calling each other leader, because the word leader is often associated with the word boss. Who likes their boss? I don't. Oh, I am my own boss. And the problem with being a boss is that we are programmed to hate our bosses, and as such we hate ourselves when we become one. Then you've got those lovely leaders who think they know you, they like you, they want to get to right down to your level, and they give you all sorts of opportunities to be yourself at work, and then they criticise you when you take advantage of that. Most of us really don't like being led at work because it means that we're being told what to do, and oftentimes that means that we're not allowed to utilise our own skills. That can be a really tough time to lead through. Those of us who go to work and we think just get the 8 hours over and done with, well, you clearly don't work in IT support where they're often asked to work 24/7. And you've always got those days as well when you're trying to lead a really good project and the plan is going off and everyone's working and it's going really well, and then Bob steps in with his ideas and changes everything without any discussion, and things start to go awry. So why do we think it changes with each job that we go to? Has anyone noticed your enthusiasm is really, really high when you apply for a new job, and then when you start your job a few months later you realise that the new people you're working for don't know how to use the skills they've hired in you either? We've actually got quite a lot of power, because followers can be leaders too, and if only we utilise that power, and every single person looking at me right now is a leader, and we can help each other to get through tough times. You just got to get the tools. One of the main reasons of poor productivity in any workplace is that we end up with people who are put in positions of leadership that do not have the tools to utilise the skills within their people to actually bring the productivity about that the organisation needs from them. So we start to compete with each other rather than to lead each other. And this is one of the problems that we've got. We're all educated and we all forget that. This hierarchy that we have in the workplace really doesn't work for us at all. It's very good for people who are looking for the manager to blame, but for most of us who are being led, especially in tough times, all we're doing is thinking about an ideal working environment that would help us to use our skills properly. I mean, who wouldn't want to work in an environment like that? So what we want to be able to do is smile. Think about it, no one situation is more tough than another, whether it's financial or whether it's just a really boring job that you're on or whether you just keep on failing, there are still some things that you can do. You've just got to know when to hand over the lead. Most leaders today think that it's all about them, they are the ones that have to make things happen. But if they actually open their eyes and realise that within their team they have a multitude of leaders, most of us actually look for democracy in our workplace. Most of us are looking, if we don't like our real appointed leader, we're looking for somebody else in the team to lead us on. Even if you think they're a bunch of numpties, leaders can actually bring about really good change in us. They can make us realise some of the most amazing achievements. They give us some really good thoughts, they help us to make ourselves very powerful, they help us to make ourselves push on through. So even though we only break mental barriers and might not actually achieve the main goal, we've broken a mental barrier, which means that the next time we have an attempt at doing something, we're more likely to achieve. It's about the teams that we work with and the ability to work with our teams, not against them, to actually utilise group skills rather than individual skills. we often look at the past, our past achievements, and those are the things, whether we have passed or failed against our goals in the past, they are the things that really do push us through. And I think that it's well worth realising that sometimes when you failed in something, that in itself is a success, as long as you have failed as a group. You have all tried to win, and I think that's something that we should recognise. Our followers can be our leaders too. I mean, I don't know about you, but when you realise that your followers are really enjoying what you're doing and they're feeling empowered, it doesn't matter what the tough times are, if they're following what you are doing, they are leading you to do more. So leadership in tough times relies on the symbols, it relies on the celebrations, it relies on us all being able to say, I remember why I wanted to do this. There was some good in this for me, and there was some good in this for everybody else. Most of the leaders that make huge change in very tough times around the world, we don't even get to see. We don't even get to know their names properly unless we research them. And I suggest that you do. These are some of my favourite leaders, and they are the ones that inspire me on my toughest days, in my toughest projects, and when I've got a bob that I really want to kill. So I want you to think about when you are leading or when you think you are being led, who is really the leader in your team? And is it true to say there is only one person capable of leading you? And is it true to say there is only one person capable of leading your team?
So, our next field. Your time starts.
Thomas Edison was one of the most innovative and creative people in history. He contributed to manufacturing, mining, transportation. He created the entire recording industry. At his death, he had 2,332 patents to his name. Most people think they can't be as creative as Edison. On MasterChef for Professionals, one of the most terrifying tests was the reinvention test. Here, professional chefs were brought to their knees, but if they just had one or two simple techniques, they would actually be able to find that great idea. So the first step is to ask the right question. What's the problem we're trying to solve? What's the outcome we're trying to achieve? If you just leap into innovating, then you're doomed to failure. Secondly, you need to think in two completely different ways. Firstly, divergent thinking, pulling the problem apart, understanding different angles. Convergent thinking is then bringing the problem back together. One of my favourite techniques for divergent thinking is called scamper. In scamper, S is for substitute. So the first thing you're going to do is pull the product apart, understand all of its components, and then start asking the question, what can we take out? What can we add back in? So if we take the example of Coke, for instance. Coke is made up of water, sugar, flavour, bubbles. What if we took out the sugar and replaced it with a diet product? So now we've created Diet Coke, and a whole new category of soft drink is born. C is for combine. So here we're actually trying to look for what can we bring together. When I'm doing A, I often have B in my hand. Some other ideas are things like, where could I build synergy? What two things are nearly the same so that I could bring them into one product? So if I like the taste of cola, but I want an energy hit, I might go for Red Bull and cola. But most of you have a better example sitting in your pockets. It's called a camera phone, and it's busily killing off the compact camera industry. So A is for adapt. Here we're looking to another industry. We're looking for a product and we say, where has someone else solved a very similar problem, and how can I bring that into my industry? Where do people do things similar? So the carpenters took the bandsaw from the meatpacking industry. Banks took the ATM from the vending machine industry. In the soft drink industry, we have this container called a bag-in-the-box. It was taken from the chemical industry where it was originally used to transport battery acid. M is for minimise or maximise. This world is full of products that only ever really found their stride when they became the right size, bigger, smaller, or just the right size for your hand. So here we're thinking about what can we make bigger or smaller. If you take a walk down the soft drink aisle, you'll see that one product is packaged in many different ways, from 135 mils up to 500 mils, hopefully one to share. If you take a wall clock and you shrink it, you get a watch. If you blow it up, you get Big Ben. P is for put to another use. So where could I take this problem I've already solved and find another market or industry that has a similar problem and go and solve that problem there? So we all know the 101 uses for Coke, whether it's as an insecticide or an engine degreaser. My personal favourite is you take a bottle of Coke, you open the lid, you take a Mentos and you drop it in, and you stand way back and enjoy the show. E is for eliminate. This one is all about simplification. What can I do with a simpler version of the product? What if I took a feature out instead of adding one back in? So where can you take a step out of a process for all of us iTool people? So if I took Coke, again, water, sugar, flavour, bubbles, what would I have left if I took all the water out of a Coke? Well, I'd have a solid, which is a Coke bottle wallet. But the iPad is a very similar idea, a powerful computer in your hand with no keyboard. R is for reverse, and this is my personal favourite, and one of the most helpful ones. What would happen if we turned the product upside down? What would happen if we did the process in reverse? The last one is, how would you achieve the opposite effect? So if I have sugar-laden, unhealthy, fizzy soft drink, how do I achieve the reverse effect of that? Well, I take water and I add vitamins. That'd have to be healthy for us, wouldn't it? So lastly, we've now got all of our ideas on the table, and we now have to go and choose the best one. So you rate, weight, rank your ideas against that original solution that you had to achieve. But remember, if you're going to be innovative, you have to give up your fear of failure. Some of the best brands in the world have failed. And as Woody Allen says, if you aren't failing every now and again, perhaps you aren't doing anything that's really innovative. Thank you.
Okay. Is that what I agreed to do?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to recommend that this session is rated PG. Service managers will be offended by the next 5 minutes. You're all worried about that, aren't you? Go. That's it. Ladies and gentlemen, we have invested... I got that up wrong. Ladies and gentlemen, we've invested thousands and thousands, millions of dollars in investing in IT. We have built these buildings of IT. These buildings of IT are now tumbling and crumbling on technical debt. Your technical debt is causing you to worry about what you're going to do tomorrow and how you're going to do it. Meanwhile, while you're busy working out how to destroy your building, somebody is waiting for a call back from you, or maybe even from me. They call you, yet you don't answer. And what are they doing in the interim? We're busy sitting there saying, oh, let's put systems in place so we can make sure we tell you what's wrong with your job in your role so we don't hear from the CEO. The CEO will tell us what to do and how to do it, and we'll jump as high as they say. Now, an interesting adage that I want you all to read carefully. Half the money we spend on IT processes is wasted. The trouble is we don't know which half. Are you investing in process after process just to keep your CEO, your security, and your risk managers happy? Are you over-designing things? A designer knows where they are when, instead of having nothing else to add, they have things to add and they know they have just enough. Just enough is the adage, just doing things in the right way. Rob talked about freeing up headroom. Are you spending time on thinking? Are you thinking through the end use, the way you're going to use things, the way you're going to deliver? It's an interesting concept. Allowing thinking time so that you can think about things differently. But one of the things I've learned that 90% of everything is crap. Absolute rubbish, as you can see. And therefore I would argue that 90% of the way you're doing service management today is crap. The idea for you is to find the 10% of process that really works. So, the question for all of you, how many administrators does it take to put a light bulb in? Answer, why a light bulb? And that is the new form of thinking that I'm going to ask you all to think about today. Instead of thinking about a process, think about how you're going to unlock value for your organisation to deliver value. DevOps comes with a new methodology of thinking about things, being agile, being quick, being fast, doing things continuously, taking feedback from success and delivering value for the future. What we want to do is create a velocity for change, a rapid way of delivering capability to the business. Are you seen as a firefighter putting out that fire, or are you delivering value? The new way of doing IT, no meetings, no tasks, no activities, no timesheets. Fun. Work is fun. And what do you do? What do you wear to work? You wear whatever you want. And by the way, maybe you have a desk, maybe you don't. Maybe you actually work at a treadmill with a table on it. Think out of the box. Let's solve this problem in 4 lines, the 9-dot pizza puzzle. So you've got 9 dots. How are you going to draw a small number of lines to solve this problem? You'll sit there for hours, but the easiest way to solve this problem is to add 2 more dots, extend the boundaries, and suddenly we can draw the lines through this in the most effective, efficient manner so that we can deliver value back to your organisation. How many of you are thinking outside the box, thinking about things outside your realm of responsibility and accountability to solve the process problems you have today? It's a simple puzzle that most of us have to do as part of adoption and testing. Are you doing the right things or doing things right? It's a really interesting proposition. So many of us function on getting 100% correct up front. Why don't you go for the 80-20 rule? Do the 20% that adds 80% of the value. How do you deliver this type of velocity, this type of change? Well, you just can't do it in silos. You have to pull all the pieces together. You have to understand where those pillars are and pull them together and work with them. You've got to have everybody working together. Can it be done? Yes, it can. A perfect example is Amazon. 10,000 deployments an hour, every hour, all day, every day, with less than 0.001% of change impacting production. If you don't think through and change your velocity culture, will you be this imprint on the floor this time next year? It's a question I ask you all. It's time for you to adopt, adapt, and move forward. So like me, I hope that you will move forward from here, open that door, open that brain of yours to new ideas, to innovation, and thinking about things differently. So it's time to open your brains to new ideas. And that's the end.
I'm going to spend the next 5 minutes teaching you how to peer inside your employees' brains, how to read their minds and unlock their secrets, how to unlock their passion, their potential. Why do we need to learn to read our employees' minds? Because we are in the midst of an employee engagement crisis. Now this is a global crisis to be sure, but Australia leads the way in this crisis. We are the 3rd least engaged workforce on the planet, 3rd only to Singapore and to mainland China. Because our HR practices are very outdated, outmoded, antiquated, and unproductive. They were built around the Industrial Revolution where people had to do very routine, tactical, and predictable work. But McKinsey says that globalization and technology have changed the way that we work. 70% of our workforce needs to have a highly strategic, creative, and innovative view. They need to be solutions-oriented. Yet we use the same command and control management structures to manage them. It all boils down to communication, to plugging into their minds and figuring out what they need to be productive, to be engaged. And in order to do that, we need to peer into their minds. Now, if we don't do this in a structured manner, their minds can appear like a black hole, sucking all of our resources and our time out of us without giving much back. But if you structure just 5 conversations and have them on a regular basis, they will reveal their secrets to you. And it's all about 5 conversations. But before I get to those 5 conversations, let me give you the first tip, because the most important thing is frequency. Annual or biannual performance reviews just aren't enough. You need to sit down with your staff on a monthly basis, have a structured conversation that's diarized in both your calendar as well as theirs, so that they know how important these are to you. What do you talk about? First conversation is feedback. This is a 2-way conversation. It's your trigger to remind you to give praise where praise is due, but also it allows them to give you feedback. What's working? What's not working? What do they see that can improve? The second conversation is that performance management conversation, and it's all about accountability. Most performance management problems begin because job objectives are not clearly defined or articulated to them. Job objectives are not a laundry list of duties and responsibilities. They are outcomes, not tasks, and they can be measured. And they're in just a few specific areas. So start by redefining your job objectives. Then the strengths conversation. Now that's an important conversation. Strengths are not just what your employees are good at. They're what they're passionate about. They're those natural behaviors that are hardwired into their brains between the ages of 3 and 15. Help them uncover and play to their strengths, and you'll get better productivity, better customer service scores, and much lower employee turnover. The next conversation I like to call currencies of choice, because their pay packet, that's a hygiene factor. You need to pay them enough. But once you pay them enough, it turns out that you don't get more bang for the proverbial buck. It's these intrinsic motivators that help unlock their potential. Now, there are a number of currencies of choice that I can talk about, but I'm going to talk about 3 actually. And they come from Dan Pink. Autonomy, mastery, and purpose. Let them control their own destiny, let them get really good at their day job, and help them find a sense of purpose. The last conversation is career development. Why career development? Because it's the #1 factor that study after study says is the one that they use to determine, should I stay or should I leave? Yet most managers are afraid to talk to them about career development because they're afraid that they can't provide that vertical career path. Help them understand the horizontal career paths, the additional duties and responsibilities that they can take on so that you can delay them looking externally. Now, a lot of companies spend a lot of money on employee engagement. You don't have to. All you have to do is hire the right people, which is the source of another topic of conversation, and talk to them, communicate with them. If you do, you will have a truly engaged, motivated, and productive workforce. Okay, so now is the time to take out your phone because I'm going to give you some free resources that will get the ball rolling. So take out your phone because you're going to want to take a picture or send me an email immediately. For the first 5 people that send me an email for these free resources, I'm giving away a book that I co-authored with Brian Tracy as well as some other career management experts on how to manage your career effectively. So take out your phone, take a picture, or email me immediately and be one of the first 5. Thank you very much.
Our last Ignite is Mr. Peter Doherty, otherwise known as the IT Ninja. And he's going to tell us about dead ninjas telling their own lives, apparently. So,
thank you.
your time starts.
Okay, thank you very much.
Hang on, quick beat, start now and use the extra time.
Can't remember what I meant to say.
Technology. There you go.
Okay, I spend a lot of time, and my ninja followers everywhere spend a lot of time telling me about some of the secrets and some of the lies they tell themselves about why their projects fail. So what I'm going to do today is share some of those lies with you and help you understand how you don't want to make those same sort of lies. The first thing we talk about when we go into a service management project, we go, I need to get some consultants in who will help me understand the process. And we'll spend a lot of time analysing things and internalising things and trying to design things that have no connection with the real world. And all of a sudden I've got an army of consultants in there. And I'm going, the consultants told me how to do it. And my costs are blowing out because the more and more consultants I come in, I'm finding the more and more work I'm doing, but I'm not getting the outputs. The next thing is I go and look to the analysts. And this is not the Gartner Magic Quadrant, this is the Gartner Mystical Quadrant from my boutique analytical firm out of Southeast Asia, who also do a great line of Bolex watches. So this, we go to look at the analysts, who should we buy? But the analysts are sitting there in their own little vacuum, analysing things, thinking to themselves, without having a real world understanding of what our individual needs are. They don't know about us, they give us generic templates about the things that they think are good. We then sit down and think about, we've got a bunch of money to spend, and we start formalising in our mind what the outcomes are going to look, what it's going to look like as my end deliverable. And I sit down and I start rationalising those things, and then I open it up to my broader stakeholder community. And all of a sudden, when I start going to my broader stakeholder community, my scope starts to increase. So it's my customers, it's my stakeholders' fault. It's the analysts who told me which tool. If I don't manage those stakeholder expectations, I will never deliver what they want. So I have to work very closely with my stakeholders. So it is my stakeholders' fault. No, it was the vendor's fault. The vendor sold me all this software, telling me it could do all this stuff, and what happens is I find out that it can't. Well, did you ever think to go through and get your vendor to drive you through use case scenarios of what you want to do? Don't go and buy a product straight off a RFI. And guess what? We want partnerships with our vendors, but what we end up doing is putting vendor management in the way, whose responsibility is to drive down price. So what, all of a sudden, I don't get what I want. And then I go to implement it. And I get my implementation people come up and go, you know what you said you wanted in that tool that you've got? Now there's all these extra things that I need to do, and it's hard. And then I start going down the track a bit more, and oh my God, I have scope creep. What I initially started to think about doing, I'm now socialising it with some more people, and my scope is creeping, and my budgets are blowing out, and my timelines are going out. So it's the stakeholders again. So I escalated to my senior managers, to my steering committee, and my senior managers and steering committee are having those executive meetings there, and they don't really care. They just want us to do it. So the next reason we fail is I don't have that stakeholder engagement. They're not adding value to the process. But just imagine if we took a different approach. Just imagine if we started looking at an open road and we could understand where we are and what our destination is going to be and work out the delivery mechanisms that we're going to use to take us there. Having a broad mind. And then, instead of going and having the stakeholders telling us everything they want, why not go and explain to them about what you can deliver in short terms? Speed to value. You've heard me say before, I'm an 80% guy. If I can get 80% in of the requirements, I can then deliver value quickly. Go on the journey with our customers. Take them to that better place where they want to get to. Show them what that better place is going to look like, and then enable them and guide them there. The way we'll get our stakeholders and our customers to make use of this is get them engaged. Then when I start looking at tool sets, what I really need to do is I've got to make sure that I'm comparing the exact same things. Because from what the analysts say, from what the different vendors say, it's very difficult to get a true picture. So work with your vendor in a partnership from the very start. Explain to them what your business objectives are. Let them help you get to those business objectives. It's not about getting the cheapest price, it's about getting the best fit and defining the partnership that you want to move forward. And then, when I do start moving forward and pushing out the solution from a process and from a toolset perspective, it is much easier to join the individual bits. And when I have my consultants doing the implementation, they should be asking you, why do you want to do that a lot? Once I start doing those things, I'll be delivering engagement out to my customers. I'll all of a sudden change from delivering something that IT is having as an IT project to a business-inspired business outcome. My customers will be happy, and it'll give me a foundation for doing long-term growth. These are the things that I've learned as being a ninja for many years. I've heard many customers tell themselves lies about why they fail. These are some of the lies they tell one another. These are some things that I'd expect you wouldn't do in the future. Thank you.
Excellent. So that actually concludes our Ignite presentation.